When God Was a Woman, the landmark exploration of the ancient worship of the great goddess and the eventual suppression of women's rights by Merlin Stome. Introduction, Part 2. Professor S.H. Hooke, in his collection of essays, Myth, Ritual, and Kingship, openly admits, "I firmly believe that God chose Israel to be the vehicle of revelation." Albright himself wrote, "It is frequently said that the scientific quality of Palestinian archaeology has been seriously impaired by the religious preconceptions of scholars who have excavated in the Holy Land. It is true that some archaeologists have been drawn to Palestine by their interest in the Bible, and that some of them had received their previous training mainly as Bible scholars." But he then proceeded to reject this possibility of impairment, basing his conclusion primarily upon the fact that the dates assigned to the sites and artifacts of ancient Palestine by the scholars who took part in the earlier excavations were subsequently proven to be too recent rather than too old, as might perhaps be expected. The question of whether or not the attitudes and beliefs inherent in those suggested religious preconceptions had perhaps subtly influenced analysis and descriptions of the symbolism, rituals, and general nature of the ancient religion was not even raised for discussion. In most archaeological texts, the female religion is referred to as a fertility cult, perhaps revealing the attitudes towards sexuality held by the various contemporary religions that may have influenced the writers. But archaeological and mythological evidence of the veneration of the female deity as creator and lawmaker of the universe, prophetess, provider of human destinies, inventor, healer, hunter, and valiant leader in battle suggests that the title fertility cult may be a gross oversimplification of a complex theological structure. Paying closer attention to semantics, subtle linguistic undertones, and shades of meaning, I noticed that the word cult, which has the implicit connotations of something less fine or civilized than religion, was nearly always applied to the worship of the female deities, not by ministers of the church, but by presumably objective archaeologists and historians. The rituals associated with the Judeo-Christian Yahweh Jehovah were always respectfully described by these same scholars as religion. It was upon seeing the words God and even He each time carefully begun with capital letters, while Queen of Heaven, Goddess, and She were most often written in lowercase, that I decided to try it the other way about, observing how these seemingly minor changes subtly affected the meaning as well as the emotional impact. Within descriptions of long-buried cities and temples, academic authors wrote of the sexually active goddess as improper, unbearably aggressive, or embarrassingly void of morals, while male deities who raped or seduced legendary women or nymphs were described as playful, even admirably virile. The overt sexual nature of the goddess, juxtaposed to her sacred divinity, so confused one scholar that he finally settled for the perplexing title, the Virgin Harlot. The women who followed the ancient sexual customs of the goddess faith, known in their own language as sacred or holy women, were repeatedly referred to as ritual prostitutes. This choice of words once again reveals a rather ethnocentric ethic, probably based on biblical attitudes. Yet, using the term prostitute as a translation for the title of women who were actually known as Qadesh, meaning holy, suggests a lack of comprehension of the very theological and social structure the writers were attempting to describe and explain. Descriptions of the female deity as creator of the universe, inventor or provider of culture, were often given only a line or two, if mentioned at all. Scholars quickly disposed of these aspects of the female deity as hardly worth discussing. And despite the fact that the title of the goddess in most historical documents of the Near East was the Queen of Heaven, some writers were willing to know her only as the eternal Earth Mother. The female divinity, revered as warrior or hunter, courageous soldier, or agile markswoman, was sometimes described as possessing the most curiously masculine attributes, the implication being that her strength and valor made her something of a freak or physiological abnormality. J. Meringer, professor of prehistoric archaeology, rejected the idea that reindeer skulls were the hunting trophies of a Paleolithic tribe. The reason? They were found in the grave of a woman. He writes, "Here the skeleton was that of a woman, a circumstance that would seem to rule out the possibility that reindeer skulls and antlers were hunting trophies. Might these authors be judging the inherent physical nature of women by the fragile, willowy ideals of today's Western fashions? Priestesses of the goddess who provided the counsel and advice at her shrines of prophetic wisdom were described as being fit for this position, since as women they were more intuitive or emotional, thus ideal mediums for divine revelation. These same writers generally disregarded the political importance of the advice given or the possibility that these women might in fact have been respected as wise and knowledgeable, capable of holding vital advisory positions. Strangely enough, emotional qualities or intuitive powers were never mentioned in connection with the male prophets of Yahweh. Gerhard von Rad commented, "It has always been the women who have shown an inclination for obscure astrological cults. The word gods, in preference to the word deities, when both female and male deities were being discussed, was most often chosen by contemporary scribes of ancient religion. Conflicting translations, even something as simple as drivers, he did sweep from the fields the women gathering sticks to graze, to and fro in the fields plied the woman cutting wood, raised questions about the accuracy of the use of certain words chosen as translations. It is true that ancient languages are often quite difficult to decipher and to then translate into contemporary words and terms. In some cases, a certain amount of educated guessing takes place, and this is temporarily useful, but it is here that preconceived attitudes may be likely to surface. Unfortunately, instances of possibly inaccurate translation, biased comments, assumptions, and speculations innocently blend into explanations of attitudes and beliefs of ancient times. Male bias, together with preconceived religious attitudes, which appears in both major and minor matters, raises some very pressing and pertinent questions concerning the objectivity of the analysis of the archaeological and historical material available at present. It suggests that long accepted theories and conclusions may be re-examined, re-evaluated, and where indicated by the actual evidence, revised. So this is a reading from When God Was a Woman, the landmark exploration of the ancient worship of the great goddess and the eventual suppression of women's rights by Merlin Stome. I encourage my listeners to please purchase the book as we will continue to read this book. And thank you for watching. Please like, share, and comment.